Watkins Glen, a quaint village nestled among innumerable falls along the Finger Lakes region in the heart of New York wine country. The town was made famous for the road races held along the village's main street in the late 40s and 50s, which eventually made their way to the 3.4-mile circuit that is Watkins Glen. The Glen has played host to many racing series, including Formula One and the United States Grand Prix. But this weekend, the Ferrari Challenge North America has descended upon this iconic track for the fourth round of the 2024 championship season. Who will master this old-school circuit and emerge victorious from the weekend? Only time will tell. What a beautiful place. Here we are then, round 4 of Ferrari Challenge for 2024 here in North America at Watkins Glen. And we're about to get our race 2 for our 488 Challenge cars underway. The mix of Pirelli and Shell drivers that, as you can see, are lined up in the pit lane ready for the get-go on this 30-minute race. Halfway point in our calendar then, having been to Texas, to Laguna Seca, to Montreal. Here we are, Watkins Glen, heading to Sonoma next, then Indianapolis, and of course the World Finals to come in Imola, in Italy, at the middle of October this year. So that's when everything will be rounded out. So everyone had said to me the Glen is a truly beautiful place and it's a track that you will really love, and I have to say I've been so impressed with it here. It is an incredible place, and this is what it looks like. Just jaw-droppingly beautiful surroundings, and the track nestled in amongst it. And it follows the topography of the region as well, with some 11 turns, which are a real test for our Ferrari Challenge drivers, that's for sure. Getting the master of this circuit is not easy. That's for definite, and overtaking opportunities are at a premium here. Certainly, perhaps going into turn 1 and also through the bus stop is another opportunity as well. Weather conditions then, track temperature, balmy 41 degrees, air temperature 33 degrees, 38% humidity and 11 kilometers per hour of wind, just to take the edge off that temperature as every driver gets ready to get into the very hot 488 Challenge cars, and Amanda Busick is ready to bring us more. Good afternoon.
Hey, David, as you can see, it's also a beautiful place to see the sights and the sounds of horsepower here at Watkins Glen, some of the hospitality with Ferrari, our friends, our family, and our Ferrari faithful. The last race of the day here for this event at Watkins Glen will be to our beloved 488 chassis as these guys look to take to the turns around this beautiful track here in the Finger Lakes district of New York. But when you think about Massimo Perrina, is there anything that can stop him? You will have Jason McCarthy getting back into a car right after finishing the Trofeo Pirelli race. He's going to be someone that's going to want that opportunity at him. You know that Massimo has the performance, you know that he has the racecraft. But this is why we race it. This is why we go green for 30 minutes, to see what can happen. And then I also want to keep my eyes on Matt Dalton. He picked up the pole earlier today. He's still looking for his first win in the series. Today might be it, Dave.
I think you might be right, and there's some very interesting storylines to bring you, because Jason McCarthy has just come off the back of a 296 race, which he would consider very disappointing, and therefore he'll want to right the wrongs of the last 30 minutes by going well in this race, and may well take it to Massimo Perrina. There are a number of drivers in the Shell category that are out of position from qualifying as well. It is another pole position, though, for Massimo Perrina. Alongside him is Jason McCarthy. The Pirelli drivers continue with Logan Broughton and Michael Porter. They go from row 2. On row 3, it's Gray Falva and Mark Musso. Danger men there, potentially from the third row of the grid. Best of the Shell drivers then, Matthew Dalton with Joel Rosenbacher alongside. And then to the next row, we find Stephen Chen and Dan Magnuszewski. On to row 6, and it's P11 and P12 in the grid overall, Greg Griffin and Gary Ott. As we move to row 7, where we find Enoch Hurd and Richard Perrina. To row 8, where we find Steve Blevitt and Brad Evans. They go from P15 and P16. P17 and 18 belong to Anthony DiCarlo and Jeffrey Keel. Then it's P19 for Mitchell Green and P20 for Gregory Hopkins. Could you see some overtaking from him potentially? Henry Hummel and Lance Corley are on the 11th row of the grid. It's P21 and P22, and starting right from the back, Gerda Svenslovas. If anybody is going to be doing some overtaking, potentially could be that man. So there we have it then. The cars are out on their formation lap now. We've been through the grid in full now. It's 30 minutes on track for all of our drivers. What can they do over the 30 minutes of this Watkins Glen circuit? Final race of our Ferrari Challenge weekend here, and you can see both Massimo Perrina and Jason McCarthy weaving from side to side, trying to generate some temperature into those Pirelli tyres. Most of the other drivers altogether a little bit more discreet in terms of tyre temperature generation. We split the screen so that you can see the start from two completely different angles. And well, if history is anything to go by, Massimo Perrina will nail the start and disappear up the road, not to be seen until the checkered flag. But the great thing about the Ferrari Challenge is that we can expect the unexpected, and who knows, Jason McCarthy, as I say, he will be absolutely determined, having had a very disappointing race in the Trofeo Pirelli 296 race that he's just contested. Bear in mind, he has to jump from one car to the next car to go racing again, so big ask physically and mentally. The safety car will peel off into the pit lane, and it will be the responsibility of Massimo Perrina and Jason McCarthy to control the pace of the rolling start, heading towards the green flag. And you can see that Jason McCarthy is very, very keen here as we get the green flag, and well, Massimo Perrina gives it everything on the loud pedal and heads towards turn number 1. Jason McCarthy around the outside, just got his nose in front here. Is Jason McCarthy going to take the lead of the race, or is Massimo Perrina going to be able to get by? So it is side by side, a real drag race through the first sequence of turns, but Massimo Perrina has made that P1 position. Here's from Jason McCarthy. It was a valiant effort from Jason McCarthy, and Michael Porter really chasing down Logan Broughton as well. So Massimo Perrina leading from Jason McCarthy, and now probably Jason's best opportunity to get the better of Massimo Perrina has gone. It was going to be in that opening corner sweep, and he very, very nearly did it, but not quite. So the cars all streaming by then for the first time of asking through these turns in this 30-minute race, the race being led by Massimo Perrina, who I remind you is unbeaten across the entire calendar this year in the 488 Challenge. So there are other drivers that are dropping down the order, including the 426 car that you can see there just dropping back a bit. So Massimo Perrina then settling into his comfort zone, heading Jason McCarthy and Logan Braun. And it is Matt Dalton from Joel Rosenbacher and Steve Chen then, Dan Magnaszewski running in P4. And here's Michael Porter then. It looked very, very lively earlier on. And we've got all of these Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli cars and Shell cars out there on track for this final race of our fourth round of Ferrari Challenge 4 2024. Watkins Glen and Massimo Perrina against the guardrail, Jason McCarthy and Logan Broughton, and putting the first lap in the book then of this race 2 of the weekend for our 488 drivers. It's Perrina from McCarthy and Broughton, and then confirmation it's Matt Dalton from Joel Rosenbacher and then Stephen Chen. They are the top 3 for our Shell drivers. It was Steve Blevitt that we saw dropping down the order earlier on, and continuing to drop down the order as well. So Massimo Perrina then said that it's a carbon copy of what he's done for virtually every race, it has to be said. He does all the hard work in qualifying, and then once he's done that hard work in qualifying, he sets about his business in the race and just goes about it with a clear, clinical focus. Does a very, very good job. Now, I said one to watch might be Gregory Hopkins, who's chasing Brad Evans and Gary Ott at the moment. And just ahead of them as a little bit of dust is kicked up there from Enoch Hurd and Richard Perrina just ahead. That's the fight that's going on in the Shell drivers. There's Gary Opp, then it's Evans, then it is Gregory Hopkins. Said Hopkins might be one to watch in this race, out of position in qualifying. A number of drivers were out of position in qualifying, particularly in the Shell drivers category. So fight as it comes across us now of these three cars, with Gilles Sven Slovas then making up a lot of places right at the start of the race. He very disadvantaged from qualifying, having an off and starting right at the back of the pack, Gilles Sven Slovas. So he has work to do, and he's setting about that in a very determined fashion in the 459 car. And of course, it's been a torrid weekend for Gilles Sven Slovas, who finished on track P1 yesterday, but there was a penalty being attracted or being applied to Gilles Sven Slovas to the advantage of Matt Dalton, who's incidentally leading the Shell race at the moment. Leading the Pirelli race is Massimo Perrina, who's built up a huge margin of very nearly just over 1.5 seconds over Jason McCarthy, who's running P2, and then it's Logan Broughton that is running P3. So, barring disaster for Massimo Perrina, you know, the fastest laps have come from both of our leading drivers in each of the categories. I remind you, the Pirelli drivers have the red strip across the top of the windscreen. The Shell drivers, I should say, the yellow strip across the top of the windscreen. And we're watching the 376 car of Logan Broughton, who's currently steadfast in that P3 position, having broken away a little bit from Michael Porter, who's running P4. And ahead of Gray Falva and Mark Musso running P5 and P6 currently. So just now Michael Porter finds a little bit more pace to bring himself a little bit closer to Logan Broughton, taking a completely different line through that turn. And there the gap evolution between Logan Broughton and Michael Porter, as you can see. Both of them having seen Jason McCarthy and Massimo Perrina disappear up the road. It's Matt Dalton leading in the Shell drivers from Joel Rosenbacher and Stephen Chen. And then it's Dan Magnuszewski, Greg Griffin and Richard Pineda. So these 488 Challenge cars, which have been such a successful Ferrari Challenge car, and so many of them that they've been incorporated into our Ferrari Challenge race weekends, giving drivers the opportunity to still race these wonderful cars. So across the timing line goes Michael Porter, and the gap between Broughton and Porter is just exactly a second. Running P5 is Gray Falva, and let's go back down into the paddock area with Amanda Busick.
Yeah, Dave, I want to go back to that interview that we had with Matt Dalton after he got that pole position, and he was talking about he really loves the idea of Ferrari Challenge and how it is such a place for families. And, you know, we know of the Musials that have been racing together over the years, but there's another family out there as well that shares these weekend, and that is the Favres. You're looking at Gray Favre right now on track. His dad, Brad, I was talking to him just after his podium finish, just the race prior in Trofeo Pirelli. And he told me, he's like, you know, I can't let Gray have all the fun out here. So you have to imagine even the motivation that becomes from father and son in these races as well.
It's a very good point that you make, the whole family atmosphere and the ability to enjoy these weekends as a family is something very, very rich and enjoyed by so many. It's a very all-embracing and welcoming atmosphere here in the Ferrari Challenge, no question. So, Matt Dalton then, setter of the fastest lap for our Shell drivers, is centre shot right now, the Ferrari of Long Island driver, the driver of car number 433. Up until yesterday, and bearing in mind the race win inherited by dint of a penalty, it's been P2s pretty much all the way for Matt Dalton. Well, certainly not the case today. Did all the work in qualifying, and he's leading the race at the moment. Ahead of the Ferrari Lake Forest driver, Joel Rosenbacher. Did a very good job in qualifying, and has sealed a good effort in the race as well. And in comparison to his very lowly finish yesterday, he'll be very happy with where he's situated on track at the moment in P2. And then Stephen Chen running in P3 currently. His his best result actually came right at the opening of the season at the Circuit of the Americas, where he also took a P3. So Stephen Chen will be hoping for Ferrari of Houston to be able to replicate that come the end of this race, which will be in around about 22 minutes time. Meantime, 3 together here, which is quite an interesting battle to watch. Make that 4 right now, as the cars all get together here around this circuit, which is delineated by these guardrails, which makes it really rather fearsome, I would suggest, because there's no forgiveness there at all. And if you find yourself just glancing one of those guardrails, you stay glanced, I would suggest. Incidentally, can I just say that Gerda Svenslovas has set the fastest lap in the 459 car, so doing a very good job in that 459 car and making his way up the order. He's made up 8 places, as you can see from the progress chart on the left-hand side of your screen. Gregory Hopkins has made up 4 places. Told you he would be one to watch. And also well done to Richard Perrina, having made up 3 places as well. So proving that overtaking definitely can happen here, as another one is ticked off the list here at Watkins Glen. So everyone that says that overtaking is at a premium here, and I consider myself included in that statement, well, that is just proving that it can be done. So Gary Ott in the 406 car. As I remind you that the fastest lap coming from Gerda Svenslovas, who is on the tail of this 4-way fight at the moment. So he will be trying to thread his car like trying to put some cotton through the eye of a needle here. And he's made up so many places during the course of this race. And is he now going to be able to tick another one as he got the inside line going into turn number 1? Surely this is going to be a slam dunk as we just get away from that, watching Dan Magnaszewski here. Great lines through and climbing uphill, and sure enough, Svenslovas did manage to make that overtake work. So now into his target sights, he's going to be the next driver up the order, and Gregory Hopkins is going to try and get past Griffin as well. And on the inside line here, going into the bus stop, it's another one of the overtaking opportunities that are, as I say, hard to find around this track, but it did that perfectly. So moves up another place. So it is changing a plenty in the Copa Shell race, whereas in the Trofeo Pirelli race, Massimo Perrina is just extending his lead constantly over Jason McCarthy and Logan Broughton, and that is the way it is at the moment. So Gerda Svenslovas then, who will be targeting the 406 car of Gary Ott next. Gary Ott, in terms, is targeting Enoch Hurd ahead of him. Taking a look at the inside, just showing his face there on the Enoch Hurd car, just to try and get a momentary break of concentration. P12, P13 in the race overall, and shortly they're going to be joined by Gerda Svenslovas, who is really travelling at the moment. So they're the 498 machine. And when they come across that guardrail, it is absolutely awe-inspiring to hear and see just how quick these 488 Challenge cars are. 18.25 minutes of the race remaining then, and still places going to change before the end of the race of that, I have no doubt whatsoever. Just tracking Enoch Hurd and Gary Ott then, and Gary Ott was just marginally quicker than Enoch Hurd last time around, and is going to be propelled still further, I suspect, when Gerda Svenslovas is able to get right onto the gearbox of the 488 Challenge car that he's chasing down right now, which is that of Gary Ott. Into the bus stop, and just as those cars go into the bus stop, we take a look at our race leader. Apologies that we haven't seen that much of Massimo Perrina, but the reason for that is, as you can see, he's so far up the road, driving that 326 car, just nailing every apex absolutely perfectly, concentrating on everything that he is doing and building up a huge margin over Jason McCarthy, which, to be honest, is, as I mentioned previously, a carbon copy of just how he conducts his racecraft over the course of racing weekends. I remind you that he is utterly unbeaten for Ferrari of Seattle since the very start of the season. There's Jason McCarthy going through, then probably frustrated that he is not able to take it to Massimo Perrina. The gap is now 5.045 seconds. I use the word clinical in terms of Massimo Perrina. Would you agree with that, Amanda Busick?
That's a fair way to describe it. You'll go back to Tony saying over the last day or so just how there's some sort of record breaking that is happening with the performance that he's seen out of Massimo this season. All the fastest laps, all the pole positions, every single win so far in the season. But when I talked to Massimo just about his experience becoming more and more confident in himself as a racing driver, it was just 2 years ago here at Watkins Glen that he was only in his second event in his young career, and said just what a difference the seat time and just the time from that moment. He's just a totally different driver at this point. And then talking with Massimo's parents, who I imagine are watching from some point, be it hospitality or on pit lane, they also talked about their comfort of watching their son race now, which was a nerve-wracking experience 2 years ago, has become more of an enjoying experience. Still nerves, as any parent would have, but love watching the success happen for their son.
Thank you very much. Just while you were articulating that, we saw another great overtake from Gerda Svenslovas, who's got the bit between his teeth and has moved up a further place. And he really is utterly determined in this 459 car to move as far up the order as he possibly can. It's been a weekend of highs and lows for Gerda Svenslovas, and he wants to finish the weekend on an absolute high, and he's now up to P8 for Continental Autosports, as you can see. And yes, he'll be, don't think that might be the end of the story yet. We've still got 15 minutes of the race to come, and feel sure as Gregory Hopkins also makes an overtake here as well. Plenty going on in the Shell drivers of this Ferrari Challenge 488 race, but the man that is absolutely on a mission at the moment is Gerda Svenslovas, no question about that. Next in his target sights is being lined up as we speak. And Gregory Hopkins also following the trajectory of forward of Gerda Svenslovas as well. So already, as you can see, Massimo Perrina coming up against some backmarking traffic, and well done for getting out of the way and not hampering Massimo Perrina in his quest to put as much time as he can between himself and Jason McCarthy. So great driving, and it is always, generally speaking, very respectful driving in the Ferrari Challenge. Just on occasions, mistakes happen, of course they do, but no driver would deliberately impede another one, that's for sure. So Massimo Perrina leading ahead of Jason McCarthy, and just very nearly under 10 seconds. I'm surprised that Massimo's not going to call into our studio here and make a coffee before continuing on his race. It's that much of an advantage that he has over Jason McCarthy currently. Leading for the Shell drivers, the Ferrari of Long Island driver Matt Dalton, then driving that very spectacularly liveried orange 488 Challenge car with the number of 433, and he climbs up the hill right now, and Joel Rosenbacher, and any quest from Joel Rosenbacher to get on terms with Matt Dalton has gone away quite some, because Matt Dalton has got quite an advantageous margin between himself and the P2 and P3 drivers. As you can see, the camera tells no lies that the gap and the tremendous pace that Matt Dalton has as he runs out onto the curbs and just gets a perfect almost slingshot off the curbs. And still plenty of battles going on as Gary Ott, and just a moment there as the wall looked very encouraging there. And Gerda Svenslovas coming through, and a bit of a brave moment there for Dan Magnuszewski, who very nearly found the very unforgiving wall, but thankfully managed to keep it out of it. So Dalton, Chen, Perrina, then it is Rosenbacher, Ott, and Gerda Svenslovas. And incidentally, Gary Ott with the fastest lap for the Copa Shell drivers in the 488 Challenge Race 2 of the weekend. Massimo Perrina, unsurprisingly, fastest lap for the Trofeo Pirelli drivers So that's the way it looks currently. And the man that is on an absolute mission, in my opinion, is Gerda Svenslovas, lining up Gary Ott now for the next move. Dives to the inside. Gary Ott tries to defend here. Side by side they go towards the bus stop. And he has been absolutely precise in nailing that on every single opportunity. And it's been a joy to watch some of the overtakes. Really, it has. So, I am being told that he has made up 11 overtakes during the course of the race. Knew that someone in our broadcast production crew would be keeping a tally of this remarkable progress that he's making. There you can see it in proof, in graphics on the left-hand side of your screen. Progress rate 11. Oh, as into the barriers is the 429 car. That's Henry Hummel. Now, Henry Hummel is away from the racing line because that's on the entrance to the bus stop. So he's not in any immediate danger of any other driver, but we do have waved yellows here with 11 minutes on the clock remaining. Now, I would have thought that the car would just be kept there because it doesn't pose any particular risk, but obviously race control will make their decisions. So Svenslovas then continues his way. 13, 14 overtakes. Infinite possibility, isn't it, with the 10.5 minutes remaining. Here comes another one. This in replay then, it was so good. Let's rerun the fun. We wanted to see it all over again, and that... So actually it's not on the entry, it's on the exit of the, it's at the exit of the bus stop chicane. So that may be slightly different in terms of how race control look at that. So just losing it on the exit. Great shame. Henry Hummel, who is coached by Max Blancardi. Very, very successful Italian Ferrari Challenge driver. And we do have a full course yellow, which is rather what I thought would happen. Initially, I thought it was just in the middle of the bus stop, and therefore it wouldn't pose a problem. But actually, having seen it again in replay, it is on the exit of the bus stop. That's where Henry Hummel lost the car. And therefore, that does become an altogether different prospect. And therefore, that's why we have a full course yellow with just 9.5 minutes of the race remaining. Now, for Jason McCarthy, a potential opportunity, maybe. We'll see how long we have a full course yellow out for. There is Mark Musso running in P6. Ahead of him is, looks like the Michael Porter car. So with a grey Falva did manage to get by Michael Porter. Safety car picks up the leader, Massimo Perrina. Well, he's had to do this once or twice in terms of restart the race from having been behind the safety car. And thus far, he's been able to cope with those restarts really rather well. 488 Challenge then proving it is still an absolutely phenomenal race car. I'm sure you'd agree with that, Amanda.
It's nice. Obviously, we don't want full course yellow conditions, but it does allow us a little bit of an opportunity to chat back and forth with each other. And while we are covering this 488 race, yes, Dave, you know, it's nice to think about the significance that this chassis was on Ferrari Challenge. I mean, you have Jason McCarthy racing in this race. He won a championship in the 488. So, you know, just from your opinion on the significance that this car would have been. And obviously the feedback from the 488 would have given birth to the 296.
Well, do you know, my honest opinion is that everyone with the 488 car and the Challenge car in particular, and of course the 488 in all its GT guises, which was such a successful racing car. And I have to be honest with you, Amanda, Ferrari never ceased to amaze me, because you just think that a car cannot be designed and be any better than the car that you have. And then they come along with the 296, which is extraordinary, but we can take nothing away from the huge success of the 488, and I have to be honest, maybe it's nostalgic, maybe it isn't, but to see these cars still racing and proving what great racing cars they are is a joy for you and I. So Massimo Perrina then being led around by the safety car, as all the cars are lined up behind that safety car. debris of the Henry Hummel car, which made contact with the barriers on the exit of the bus stop chicane. Just want to go back to Gerda Svenslovas. Can I just say, he is only one place away from taking a podium out of this race, which is extraordinary progress, absolutely extraordinary progress. Yes, so determined was he to do everything he could to right the wrongs of various things across the course of this weekend. And what have we got? 6 3/4 minutes left. It's certainly going to be a dash for cash come the end of the race. So Dalton, Chen, Pineda are the top three for our Shell drivers. For our Pirelli drivers, it's Perrina, McCarthy and Falva. They are the top three. Can anyone take it to Massimo Perrina? And, well, there is the latest ranking of Gerda Svenslovas. 13 places he has made up. He is just one place away from being in a podium place. Amazing, absolutely amazing driving. And complete determination. And I often mention this, that, you know, there are some drivers that you see them driving at their absolute best when they've been disadvantaged. And it's like, you know, they step it up another level and, you know, have a real point to prove. And, yeah, just sometimes it makes all the difference in terms of motivation. 479 car of Mitchell Green, having made up a place. Lance Corley has made up 2 places. Gregory Hopkins had said he would be one to watch at the beginning of the race. He's made up 6 places, but by far and away leading that progress chart is Gerda Svenslovas, but Richard Pineda also making up P5 places to put himself into a P3 position. So very good job done. Massimo Perrina then remains cool, calm and collected in his car as we look at our leader in the Shell race, Matt Dalton. Stephen Chen will be thinking, when we go back to greens, there's going to be an opportunity for me, perhaps. And perhaps Richard Pineda will feel the same way. So the 488 Challenge car then, and the Evo version of that 488 Challenge car, it has to be said. A little bit of weaving going on there from Matt Dalton, just to try and keep some temperature into those tyres. Massimo Perrina, Jason McCarthy, Gray Falva, then Logan Broughton, Michael Porter and Mark Musso. And for the Shell drivers, Matt Dalton, Stephen Chen, Richard Pineda, Gerda Svenslovas. Remind you that Gary Ott still holds the point for the fastest lap in the race as the yellow flags still wave. We can see there the recovery units are down there, recovering the Henry Hummel car. We've got 4 minutes remaining. We're not going to get a lot of racing done, I'm afraid to say, in my opinion. Picking up on the 483 car of Dan Magnuszewski. And we keep our eyes on the race control screen and say the recovery operation is underway, but with only 3.5 minutes remaining. Just wonder whether we will see this back to greens again before the time has elapsed. If it all were to finish right now, it would be Massimo Perrina, Jason McCarthy and Gray Falva taking the P123 in the Trofeo Pirelli drivers. For the Shell drivers, it would be Matt Dalton, Stephen Chen and Richard Pineda. The very 3 cars, well, 2 now, you can see, of Stephen Chen and Richard Pineda. And for Richard Pineda in the 452 car, of course, he had a good weekend at Laguna Seca. I had the pleasure of meeting Richard's family yesterday at the party last night. Very lovely people, and it's very much the case of the ambience of all of these Ferrari Challenge events, the opportunity to meet guests, friends, families, all associated with drivers and dealers, of course, in the Ferrari Challenges. Nothing other than a privilege and a pleasure, that's for sure. So the safety car still leading the cars away then, and as you can see at the top of your screen to the left-hand side, the clock continues to count down, and I certainly don't want to be the prophet of doom, but the likelihood is no. We get the final lap board now, so the order we have is the order in which the cars are going to finish. Behind the safety car. So that means that Massimo Perrina takes his 6th win of the season. Jason McCarthy will be taking P2, and Gray Falver will be taking P3 in the Pirelli class. It'll be Matt Dalton, Stephen Chen, and Richard Perrina for the Shell drivers. And you never like to see the race finish like this, but unfortunately, I did wonder when taking a look at the clock whether we would be able to get any further racing underway in this situation, and clearly it's been deemed that that's quite impossible to do. So driver safety, of course, is always paramount. And the car's being led through the bus stop by the safety car then, before being taken back into the paddock area. And, well, I feel a little bit for Gerdas Venslovas, because I think even if we would have had one more lap, he'd have done some more overtaking and just maybe got a podium out of this race, which would have been a remarkable achievement, absolutely remarkable. But not going to be, because the powers that be have decided that this is the final lap, and the final lap being led behind the safety car. Always run a very tight schedule in the Ferrari Challenge, with lots of other on-track activities as well, and all of those have to be given their opportunity to stretch their legs on the track. Maximising the entertainment out there on track every single Ferrari Challenge weekend. And there, wow, what a driver, Massimo Perrina. Absolutely awesome performance this year. It's been a real joy to watch him, and also just as impressed at his ability to not only drive that racing car, but be a nice young man as well, and very good at dealing with the pressures of media. Very articulate, and clearly very humble as well. He's always ready to thank his team as he takes the checkered flag. Then the race is done. Massimo Perrina victorious in Trofeo Pirelli ahead of Jason McCarthy and Gray Falver. And for our AM drivers heading towards the checkered flag, as we zoom into the all-orange car of Matt Dalton, he takes the checkered flag ahead of Stephen Chen and Richard Perrina. So there we have it. The final race of our Ferrari Challenge weekend is done, with Massimo Perrina adding yet another to his really rather enviable success rate of this season. So at least the cars were allowed to take the checkered flag then. And Matt Dalton will be very happy. I can't help but feel, as I said earlier on, maybe there will be a feeling of frustration for Gerdas Venslovas, who was just one place away from getting a podium, having made a remarkable number of overtakes during the course of the race. Friday Challenge Race 2 then here at Watkins Glen. This really rather a special circuit, and there is the Gerdas Venslovas car that I was talking about, and just an absolutely extraordinary rate of progress made during the course of the race. Just proving that actually you can do a lot of overtaking here. The Continental Autosports driver, who classifies P4 in Copa Shell. Very, very good job done indeed. picked up and recognised, of course, by my colleague Tony Verlander, as he had much delight in telling you across the course of the weekend. Let's take a look at the confirmed classification then. Massimo Perrina ahead of Jason McCarthy, Gray Falva, Logan Broughton, Michael Porter and Mark Musso. They are the top 6 for Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli 488. And for our Shell drivers, Matthew Dalton, Stephen Chen and Richard Perrina ahead of Gerdas Venslovas, who takes P4 but P10 in the race overall. Ahead of Joel Rosenbacher, Gary Ott, Dan Magnuszewski, Gregory Hopkins, Enoch Hurd. Then it was Greg Griffin, Brad Evans, Mitchell Green and Anthony DiCarlo. And they were ahead of Lance Corley, Jeffrey Kiel, Henry Hummel, of course, we saw out, and Steve Blevitt also out, and regrettably not starting Kevin Orsini and Michael Merrithew. There, the confirmed classification from our 488 challenge race, then our mix of Pirelli and Shell drivers. And in due course, I'm sure we'll take a look at the Drivers' Championship points as well, as we watch Massimo Perrina bringing the car back right now, and he will line that up ahead of the podium. And the top 3 in graphics for you there. And great to see the spectators applauding the success of our drivers then, as they do head down to our hospitality and podium area here at Watkins Glen. Massimo Perrina, Jason McCarthy, Gray Falva. For Trofeo Pirelli, and for Copa Shell, Matthew Dalton, Stephen Chen and Richard Perrina. So a packed paddock area that you can just get a glimpse of now as the cars make their way out of the pit lane and into the inner paddock area here at Watkins Glen. Matthew Dalton then 433 P1, also being applauded by the fans. And if you get the opportunity to come to a Ferrari Challenge event here in North America, we would really urge you to do so. You'll be welcomed with open arms. It's a really, really lovely experience. And there you can see, just at the backdrop there, and here is where all the festivities get underway as the drivers are brought in. And here come their cars then. So Massimo Perrina, I suspect that his uncle Roberto Perrina will be one of the first to go and congratulate him. All the cars coming into order then. Very, very talented young man. Congratulated by the head of Ferrari Motorsport in North America, Louis Colmash. Everything being undone, of course, the communications, the belts, the hands device, the crash helmet. And Massimo emerges from the 488 Challenge car that has served him so very well as he thanks the car. Done a great job and congratulated. Awesome job. See Amanda Busick lurking, ready to grab hold of him at the first opportunity. And there's Roberto then. After Massimo's dad has congratulated him, Roberto wasn't far behind. You also see in the backdrop there Brian Cook, who was racing just a few moments ago, and he offers his congratulations as well. The spirit of camaraderie is wonderful down there in the Ferrari Challenge, and that's lovely to see, absolutely lovely to see. So as Massimo gets ready for his next media appearance, which will be alongside Amanda Busick, which is a daunting prospect for anybody, I can assure you. He'll be pretty happy with that, I should think. And another great drive from Massimo Perrina. Doing a great job in the Trofeo Pirelli 488 Challenge. He is with Amanda right now.
6 events, 6 podiums, 6 fastest laps, 6 wins. Have you considered the impression you are making on this paddock?
I've considered it. I haven't thought about what it might mean for me or the team yet, but I'm very happy to start thinking about the possibilities.
It has been an absolute joy to watch. We look forward to it.
Thank you so much.
Well done, Massimo. He's just beginning to think about what it might mean for him. Tell you what, friend, you've got a great career ahead of you. And Drivers' Championship points then, Massimo Perrina, P1, Jason McCarthy, P2, Logan Broughton, P3. Then it's Mark Musso and Gray Falva and Michael Porter, Frank Szczesniak and Eric Pan. Then the 488 Pirelli Drivers' Championship. And Massimo Perrina in a really, really very strong position. Omar Balkasoon is P9, Brad Falver P10, Joe Sposado and Bruce Cleveland occupying the other positions, as we see here. As Massimo slides the car towards the curbs, and he has taken more out of those curbs than any other driver that we've seen all weekend long. Absolutely thrown that car around and threw it around to very, very good effect. Oh, yes. Matt Dalton, though, was victorious for our Shell drivers in the 488 Challenge, and he is with Amanda.
Matt Dalton is officially and forever a Ferrari Challenge winner. And in consideration of your journey as a driver, how proud are you of this moment, Matt?
I'm very happy, Amanda. As you know, we've been fighting all year to get that first place and keep it. The track was great. Track was hotter today, so tires came up quick. And just a great run out of everybody. Everybody was pretty clean, and it was fun. So much fun.
How does one with the best smile on the paddock celebrate?
Oh, let me celebrate by thanking everybody. I mean, the 111 team and Pete Spinella, my wife, the Bellhaven team supporting me. I just couldn't be happier right now, so very happy.
Well, that top step over there is yours.
All right, thank you.
Yes, and he'll need no guidance to that, I'm sure, as he takes on some fluid. And look at this then. Again, like Massimo Perrina, really taking something out of those curves going into the bus stop. Knows exactly how to pitch the car. Perfect job done. Well done indeed to Matt Dalton. He'll be on the top step. And once again, how humble these drivers are in terms of thanking those that make it happen. And in the Drivers' Championship, Matt Dalton, P1. Gerdas Van Slovis, P2. Then it's Gregory Hopkins, Richard Pineda, Enoch Hurd, Henry Hummel, Stephen Chen, and Brad Evans. Stephen Chen moving up 2 places in the Drivers' Championship points for our Shell drivers in the 488. Then it's Joel Rosenbacher, Gary Ott, Dan Magnuszewski, Jeffrey Keel, Steve Blevett, Anthony DiCarlo, and Lance Corley. Both of those 2 drivers moving up a place in the points ahead of Louis Perusquia, Bernard Gomez, Greg Griffin, Mitchell Green, John Galazza, Ben Gudensi, and Kevin Orsini. So many drivers have taken part in the Shell category of the 488 Challenge, with John McKenna and Michael Merrithew, P23 and P24 in the Drivers' Championship points. Thank you so much for watching the weekend here at Ferrari Challenge, Watkins Glen. We look forward to seeing you in Sonoma. Bye-bye for now.